Assalamu alaikum. I am Nazish Daud and the topic of our presentation is Foundation of Behavior. And the first topic I am discussing is organizational behavior. What is organizational behavior? Organizational behavior is the systematic study of the actions and attitudes that people exhibit within organizations. It is individual behavior and group dynamics in organizations. The challenges and opportunities of organizational behavior will be understood through the following areas. Number 1. Understanding global organizational behavior. Globalization reflects a business-oriented based on the belief that the world is becoming more homogeneous and that distinction between national markets are not only fading but for some products will eventually disappear. Keeping these changes in mind, the challenges are to understand global organizational behavior. Number 2. Working with people from different cultures. To work effectively with people from different cultures, you need to understand how their culture and religion have shaped them and how they will respond to particular styles in management. Number 3. Movement of jobs to countries with low-cost labor. In global economy, jobs tend to flow to places where lower costs of labor provide business firms with a comparative advantage. Jobs are moving from USA and UK and other developed countries to developing countries. Workforce diversity. While globalization focuses on differences between people from different countries, workforce diversity addresses differences among people within a given country. Organizational behavior is neither a purely scientific area of inquiry nor a strictly intellectual endeavor. It involves the study of abstract ideas such as valence and expectancy in motivation, as well as the study of concrete matters such as observable behaviors and psychological symptoms of distress at work. Therefore, learning about organizational behavior is a multi-dimensional activity as shown in figure below. Mastery of basic objective knowledge. Objective knowledge in any field of study is developed through basic and applied research. Skill development. The study of organizational behavior requires skill development and the mastery of abilities essential to successful functioning of an organization. Application of knowledge and skills. It requires the integration of objective knowledge and skill development in order to apply both appropriately in specific organizational settings. Organizational behavior is a blended discipline that has grown out of contributions from numerous earlier fields of study. These interdisciplinary influences are the root for what is increasingly recognized as the independent discipline of organizational behavior. Each of these sciences has had its own importance and unique influence on the discipline of organizational behavior. These are psychology, medicine, sociology, social psychology, engineering, management, anthropology, political science. The contributions of all are significant to the understanding of behavior in organizations. A complete understanding of organizational behavior requires both an understanding of human behavior and an understanding of the organizational context within which human behavior is acted out. The organizational context includes: Number 1. Organizations as systems. Organizations are systems of interacting components which are people, tasks, technology, and structure. Number 2. The formal and informal organization. The formal organization is the part of the system that has legitimacy and official recognition. The informal organization is the unofficial part of the organization.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Andal Mehroz and I've been assigned the topic of personality. That is one of the foundations of behavior, organizational behavior. So first of all, personality. Personality is an individual difference that lends consistency to a person's behavior. Human personality includes three factors that are external appearance and behavior or social stimulus value. Number 2, inner awareness of self as a permanent organizing force. And number 3, the particular pattern or organization of measurable traits, both inner and outer. Though psychologists and social scientists unanimously agree to the importance of personality, they are unable to come out with and unanimous definitions. So, Floyd L. Rush does in his definition, as I stated earlier. There are certain major determinants of personality, for example, biological factors, cultural factors, family factors, social factors, and situational factors. The determinants of personality can perhaps best be grouped in 5 broad categories that I mentioned before. So, number 1 is biological factors. Biological factors play an important role in determining your personality, and they're subdivided into 4 main factors that are heredity, brain, biofeed, and physical features. Heredity, as obvious from the name, are the factors that are genetic, so genetically determined personality. And then another factor, brain also plays an important part in determining your personality. And then we have biofeedback. So what is biofeedback? Until recently, physiologists and psychologists felt that certain biological functions such as brainwave patterns, gastric secretions, and fluctuations in blood pressure, or for example skin temperature, were beyond conscious control. Now some scientists believe that these involuntary functions can be consciously controlled through biofeedback. So in biofeedback, the individual learns the internal rhythm of a particular body processed through electronic signals, feedback from the equipment that is wired to the body area. Okay, then we have physical features. As obvious from the name, a vital ingredient of personality, an individual's external appearance is biologically determined. The fact that a person is tall or short, fat or skinny, black or white will influence the person's effect on others, and thus in turn will affect the self-concept. Then at number 2 we have cultural factors. The personality of an individual to a marked extent is determined by the culture in which he or she is brought up. And at number 3 we have family factors. Home environment created by the parents, in addition to their direct influence, is critical to personality development. Then we have social factors. Socialization takes place throughout one's life, and it is not only consigned to the childhood. So yeah, social factors play an important part in determining your personality. Then we have situational factors. Situation exerts an important press on the individual. At first, it wasn't believed that the situation had to do with the personality, but now the scientists discovered through some research that situation does exert an important press on the individual and is a major factor for determining the personality of an individual. Okay, now we have personality characteristics in organizations. Managers should learn as much as possible about personality in order to understand their employees. Hundreds of personality characteristics have been identified. We have selected 8 characteristics because of their particular influence on individual behavior in organizations. They are, at number 1 we have locus of control. What is locus of control? It is defined as an individual's generalized belief about internal self versus external, that is maybe situation or some other individual's control, is called locus of control. Locus of control is further divided into 2 terms, that are internals and externals. Internals are those who believe they control their destinies, have been labeled as internals. And then we have externals, and externals are those individuals who believe that what happens to them is controlled by outside forces such as luck or chance. That is one personality characteristic. Then we have Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism indicates one's willingness to do whatever it takes to get one's way. For example, an individual high in Machiavellianism is pragmatic. It maintains emotional distance and believes that ends can justify means. Machiavellianism is the term that Niccolò Machiavelli was a 16th century Italian statesman, and he wrote The Prince, a guide for acquiring and using power. The primary method for achieving power that he suggested was manipulation of others, and Machiavellianism then is a personality characteristic indicating one's willingness to do whatever it takes to get one's way. Then at number 3, another personality characteristic, that is self-esteem. Yeah, that is the basic personality character that is often discussed, and it is defined as self-esteem is an individual's general feeling of worth. Individuals with high self-esteem have positive feelings about themselves, perceive themselves to have strength as well as weaknesses, and believe their strengths are more important than their weaknesses. At number 4, we have self-efficacy. What is self-efficacy? It refers to an individual's belief that he or she is capable of performing a task. The higher your self-efficacy, the more confidence you have in your ability to succeed in a task. Continuing with our personality characteristics in organizations, we are at number 5, that is self-monitoring. What is self-monitoring? A characteristic with great potential for affecting behavior in organizations is self-monitoring. Self-monitoring refers to an individual's ability to adjust his or her behavior to external situations. Then at number 6, we have positive or negative effect. Individuals who focus on the positive aspects of themselves, other people, and the world in general are said to have positive effect or positive aspect on their life. In contrast, those who accentuate the negative in themselves, others, and the world are said to possess negative effect. That is why that is often suggested to believe only in the positive aspects of yourself. Then at number 7, we have risk-taking. People differ in their willingness to take chances and as well as risk. Managers often dislike taking risks, but there are still individual differences between them. For example, in certain conditions, you cannot avoid taking risk, or sometimes taking risk is good for you. For example, a high risk-taking propensity may lead to more effective performance for a stockbroker, but these personality characteristics might prove a major obstacle for an auditor. It only depends on the person or the task they are completing. And then at number 8, we have type A and type B personality. What is type A? Type A personality individual is aggressively involved in a very serious struggle to achieve more and more in less and less time, and if required to do so, against the opposing efforts of other things or other person. And then we have type B personalities. What are type B personalities? These are rarely harried by the desire to obtain a wildly increasing number of things or participate in an endless growing series of events in an ever increasing amount of time. Okay, our next topic is measuring personality. As it seems weird from the name, how can we measure personality? But yeah, surely there are certain methods to measure personality. Several methods can be used to assess personality. These include projective tests, behavioral tests, behavior measures, and self-report questionnaires. These measures of personality are: number 1, projective test. So what are projective tests? In these tests, individuals are shown a picture, an abstract image, or a photo, and are asked to describe what they see or to tell a story about what they see. Projective tests continue to suffer from a lack of objectivity in scoring and an absence of adequate norms. Nevertheless, in clinical practice, projective tests continue to be popular and valued diagnostic tool. At number 2, we have behavioral measures. Through behavioral assessment, we can record the frequency of particular behaviors, but there are a lot of shortcomings. For example, we might assess a person's sociability by counting the number of times he or she approaches strangers at a party. The behavior is scored in some manner to produce an index of personality, but that is not accurate. And then at number 3, we have self-report questionnaire. Individuals respond to a series of questions, usually in an agree-disagree or true-false format. The widely recognized self-report questionnaire are Minnesota Multi-Phase Personality Inventory (MMPI) and Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, that is MBTI. Based on these answers, the persons are further qualified into 4 categories, that are: number 1, extroverted or introverted, E or I; number 2, sensing or intuitive, that is S or N; at number 3, thinking or feeling, T or F; and then at number 4, perceiving or judges, that is P or J. Okay, so moving on to our next topic, that is matching personalities and jobs. Obviously, individual personalities differ, so too do jobs. Following this logic, efforts have been made to match the proper personalities with the proper jobs. John Holland's personality job fit theory is concerned with matching the job requirements with personality characteristics. The personality job fit theory identifies 6 personality types and proposes that the fit between personality type and occupational environment determines satisfaction and turnover. There are 6 types that can be named as realistic, investigative, social, conventional, enterprising, and artistic. The key points of this model are that they do appear to be intrinsic personality differences among individuals. And the number second is there are different types of jobs. And number third, people in job environments congruent with their personality type should be more satisfied and less likely to resign voluntarily than people in incongruent jobs. That is why you should select job according to your personality or characteristic. Now we have approached the end of our topic, that is personality. So in order to conclude, I would like to say that personality is a dynamic concept describing the growth and development of a person's whole psychological system. It is concerned with external appearance and behavior, self, measurable traits, and situational interactions. Personality appears to be a result of heredity and environment. Additionally, today we recognize another factor that is called the situation. That is why managers should learn as much as possible about personality in order to understand their employees. That is one of the main and basic foundation of organizational behavior.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Ramsha Wasi Khan, and from here on we will be discussing emotional intelligence and what it has to do with organizations and their behavior, leadership and management. We will also discuss the Janus model and its relevance in today's offices. So first of all, let's start from the basics. What exactly is emotional intelligence? Well, according to the Chartered Management Institute, it is an individual's capacity to perceive, understand, integrate, and manage one's own and other people's feelings and emotion, and to act upon them in a reflective and rational manner. That's right. As one would guess from the word emotional intelligence, it is one's ability to understand and analyze their and others' emotion, and then act upon them in a reasonable and sensible manner. Now, it is as they say, an organization is only as good as its people. But the quality of its people is not just determined by their skill level, but also their emotional intelligence. For organizations to perform well and to achieve success, they need people who will be pillars of strength to their organization. Individuals can contribute to the organization's success in ways that go beyond their specified job task, shaping the organizational, psychological, and social environment where they and others will be able to flourish. These extra behaviors are classified as contextual performance. So basically, if an organization's employees are emotionally intelligent, they will be able to shape the entire environment of the organization, making it a space where people are motivated and achieve more. These tasks go beyond their job scope and are called contextual performance. The next question is, what is the Janus model? Janus model is an emotionally intelligent model put forward by Janus, a service firm in Australia and the UK, and is developed by Dr. Ben Palmer. It revolves around 6 skills that provide for improvements in behavior, decision making, and ultimately performance. These skills are important at work as emotions are an inherent part of the workplace activities at all levels. One way to better understand is by evaluating what low and high represents for each skill. So the 6 skills determine the states of the people themselves and the general environment of the organization and how conducive it is to personal and corporate growth. According to the Janus models, employees can have 2 extreme states: unproductive or low states and productive or high states. And these 6 core emotional intelligence competencies can take a person from a low state to a high state. As we can see from the infographic, If we have self-awareness, we can go from being disconnected to feeling present and self-assured. Similarly, with an awareness of others, we can go from being insensitive to empathetic. By practicing authenticity, one can grow from being untrustworthy to genuine. What exactly are these six core emotional intelligence competencies? The competencies in the Genos model represent skills and behaviors based on underlying abilities and experiences that are observable. The six competencies of the Genos model capture the skills and behaviors that manifest from emotionally intelligent abilities. So, the first competency is emotional self awareness. It is being aware of not just your feelings, but how they can impact your decisions and performance. People who are emotionally self-aware are conscious of the role their feelings can play in these areas and can better manage this influence effectively. When we are emotionally self-aware, we are present with the role feelings are playing in our decisions, behavior, and performance. When we are not, we are often disconnected from this influence. Next is emotional awareness of others, which is understanding how others feel. This skill helps us identify the things that make people feel valued, listened to, cared for, consulted, and understood. It also helps us demonstrate empathy, anticipate responses or reactions, and adjust our behavior so that it fits well with others. When we demonstrate this skill effectively, we come across as being empathetic. People who do not demonstrate this skill can come across as being insensitive to the way others feel. This skill is also very important when it comes to sale and public relations. Thirdly, authenticity is about openly and effectively expressing oneself, honoring commitments, and encouraging this behavior in others. It involves honestly expressing specific feelings at work, such as happiness and frustration, providing feedback to colleagues about the way you feel, and sharing emotions at the right time, to the right degree, and to the right people. People high in authenticity are often described as genuine, whereas people low in the scale are often described as untrustworthy. If people in an organization are authentic, it creates a more open and honest environment that allows people to grow and work together more efficiently. Next is emotional reasoning, which is about the information and feelings from oneself or others when decision making. It involves considering your own and others' feeling when making decisions, combining this information, which is the feelings, with facts and technical information, and communicating this decision making process to others. Feelings and emotions contain important information. For example, the level of commitment colleagues demonstrate often provides insight into whether a decision is going to be supported by the employees. The emotional appeal of products often provides insight into selling and marketing trends. When this type of emotional information is combined with facts and technical information, people make creative decisions. On the other hand, people who do not use this information and focus only on facts or technical information tend to be limited in their decision making. Emotional self management is about managing one's own mood and emotions, time and behavior, and continuously improving oneself. The modern workplace has high demands and pressure, and this can create negative emotions. Our mood can be very infectious and can therefore be a powerful force in the workplace, productively or unproductively. This skill helps people be resilient and manage high work demands and stress, rather than being temperamental at work. People who are proficient in managing their own emotions are optimistic and look to find the opportunities and possibilities that exist even when facing problems. People who can manage their emotions well mean that their own colleagues will not be affected by their emotions. That is, if one person is feeling depressed or sad and cannot manage his emotion, their colleagues may be affected by this negative emotion and their performance may also be affected. Positive influence is about positively influencing the way others feel through problem solving, feedback, recognizing, and supporting others' work. Involves creating a positive working environment for others, helping others find effective ways of responding to upsetting events, and effectively helping people resolve issues that are affecting their performance. This skill helps create a productive environment for others. Positive influence provides you the capacity to encourage colleagues to cooperate and work effectively together. People who can positively influence others' mood, feelings, and emotion are empowering to work with and easily motivate those around them. This is also very important in certain leadership styles because positive influence basically just motivates others to work effectively and efficiently. The competencies of the Janus model helps us consistently demonstrate the productive being states on the right side of the model as opposed to the unproductive being states that we can be all at times on the left side of the model. The Janus model helps to specifically understand the role of emotional intelligence in the workplace. It has been used for the following purposes. Firstly, we can inspect our organizational culture and see where we lie. Are we in the productive state or in the unproductive state? And through this, we can make any appropriate changes to our organization's culture. Secondly, we can identify future leaders by analyzing their emotional intelligence competency and thus provide them the opportunity to grow into their skills. Similarly, we can improve leadership effectiveness by seeing where our employees lie in their emotionally intelligent scale and choose the leadership style or strategy accordingly. With the help of Geno's model, we can also improve our sales and customer relations by making employees more emotionally intelligent and aware. We can also prepare better suited teams with this model where more appropriate people are grouped together. With high productivity and an environment that fosters positivity and motivation, creativity and innovation follow and thus increase exponentially. Of course, with high emotional awareness comes high teamwork abilities, which means that our collaborations will be far more efficient and effective. But the most simple reason emotional intelligence is so effective and simple is that you can consciously make changes to improve each of these skills. These are not personality traits, rather, they are behaviorally based, and with some desire, hard work, and good coaching, they can improve organizational effectiveness in monumental ways.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, my name is Sidratul Muntaha and I'll be covering the topic of employee attitude for this presentation. We will be following the given outline. In this, we will first discuss the definition of attitude, then components of attitude, then types of workplace attitude, and then we will move on to sources of attitude, the formation of attitude, and differences between attitude and values. So what is employee attitude? Employee attitude refers to an employee's beliefs, views, and opinions. It is an evaluative statement and it is important for predicting employees' collective effect on the business or company. Because attitude affects employees' productivity and willingness to work, so it is important for managers to hire individuals with the right kind of attitude that is productive for the company. Attitudes are also defined as frame of reference in which an individual responds to an object, a person, or an action. Now let's discuss components of attitude. There are three main components of attitude: cognitive component, affective component, and behavioral component. Cognitive component refers to the beliefs, thoughts, and opinions an individual associates with an object or a person. This component is based on the generalized or stereotypical knowledge a person has about a certain thing. Therefore, cognitive component actually refers to the perception or belief of an individual. Affective component refers to how a person feels based on the knowledge that they have about a certain thing. Affective component is actually the feelings and emotions that are formed on the basis of the knowledge of cognitive component. Then we have behavioral component. Behavioral component refers to how a person behaves in a certain situation or towards a certain person. It is actually the manifestation of both cognitive and affective components. Cognitive components form the initial thoughts and beliefs of an individual. Affective component translates those beliefs and feelings translates those beliefs into feelings, and the behavioral component is actually the physical manifestation of both these components. Types of workplace attitude. Most of the researches on organizational behavior are concerned with three types of attitudes: job satisfaction, job involvement, organizational commitment. Job satisfaction. Job satisfaction results when a job fulfills or facilitates the attainment of individuals' values, and dissatisfaction occurs when the job is seen as blocking such attainment. Job satisfaction refers to an individual's general attitude towards his or her job. Therefore, a person with higher job satisfaction will have a positive attitude towards his job, and vice versa. Next, we have job involvement. Job involvement is the degree to which a person identifies with his or her job and actively participates in it and considers his or her performance important to their self worth. It has been seen that higher job involvement results in fewer absences and lower resignation rates in employees. Then we have organizational commitment. Organizational commitment is the degree to which an employee identifies with a particular organization and its goals. It also declares the wish of an employee to maintain membership in the organization, because high organizational commitment means identified with one's employing organization. When we talk about sources of an individual's attitude, we actually are talking about people that they admire, love, fear, or respect. Because attitudes are not inherited, they are learned. Therefore, the people who are surrounding an individual directly influence that person's attitude. These people can be friends, parents, teachers, or significant others. People also tend to copy and adopt the attitudes of popular personalities and celebrities that they admire. The source of an individual's attitude is an important precursor for understanding the consequences of employee attitude in the workplace. Therefore, managers essentially perform the task of attitude analyzers to devise methods of persuasion to change unwanted attitudes and also help employees fit better into the workplace. Now, let's discuss how attitudes are formed. There are two major influences on attitudes, which are direct experience and social learning. Direct experience refers to the attitudes that develop from personally rewarding or punishing experience with an object. These type of direct experiences are very powerful and lead to attitudes that are stronger and firm and that cannot be changed in a short period of time. Such attitudes are stronger and more resistant to change. They can also be called forth easily as compared to attitudes that are not learned through direct experience. A type of direct experience is operant conditioning. This happens when an attitude is continuously receiving positive reinforcement by figures of authority. This leads to the attitude to become more stronger and maintained. Another type of direct experience is vicarious learning. In vicarious learning, attitudes are learned through the observance of someone else's reaction to an object. This type of learning occurs when the individual has no direct contact with the said object. In social learning, the family, peer groups, and culture shape an individual's attitude in an indirect manner. Substantial social learning occurs through the process of modeling, in which an individual acquires the attitude of their peers, family, or culture by merely observing them. The modeling concept works if the individual first focuses on a model of behavior, retains it, and reproduces it in their own attitude. Other two things in which social learning happens is family and peer groups. A person may learn attitude through imitation of parents. For example, if parents
who have a positive attitude towards an object, the child will automatically adopt a positive attitude about that object as well. And if the parent have negative attitude towards something, the child would likewise adopt the negative attitude. This is how children sometimes adopt their parents' prejudices. Peer pressure is also a very important aspect of social learning, in which an individual develops an attitude which is influenced by the popular or commonly acceptable behavior of his peers. This usually occurs to avoid ridicule and ostracization by one's peers and friends. To conclude our discussion on attitude, we will briefly discuss the differences between values and attitudes. The reason being that these two terms are often confused and misunderstood. So, values are judgment ideas about right and wrong. For example, an individual may believe that lying in any situation is wrong. This is a value, while attitude refers to individuals' response to objects. For example, how an individual responds to a liar is his attitude. Values are usually related to a single object, belief, or situation, while attitudes may relate to several beliefs about the same object. On one hand, values are derived from social, religious, and cultural morals, while attitudes are developed as a result of personal experience and learning. Like we said before, that attitudes are not inherited, they are learned through social behavior and culture, peer groups, and direct experiences.
Assalamu alaikum, it's Aksa here. Today we'll discuss perception, and let me tell you the subtopics that I'm going to cover. First, we'll define it and we'll understand why we need to understand the concept of perception. Then we'll go into the factors that perception is depending on. They include the characteristics of perceiver, target, and situation. We'll also cover their sub-factors. Then we'll look for some shortcuts, and most importantly, we need to cover the topic of perception from a managerial point of view. Moving on, we need to define perception, a process by which individuals organize and interpret their sensory impressions in order to give meaning to their environment. What does that mean? Perception involves basically the way we view the world around us, including all the 5 senses of touch, smell, hearing, vision, and taste. Virtually, all management activities rely on perception, because people's behavior is based on their perception of what the reality is and not the reality itself. So managers are basically perceiving workers. Workers are perceiving managers. This is really important to know, because there are numerous complex factors that enter into such social perception, but primary factors are found in the psychological process and personality. Here we only have the names of the factors that are impacting, affecting, and influencing perception. We'll go into their details in the following slides. Here we have in detail the factors affecting perception, which depends on situation, perceiver, and the target. We'll discuss them in detail in the following slides. Now we have the characteristics of the perceiver here, including attitudes, motives, moods, self-concepts, interests, cognitive structures, and expectations. We'll discuss attitude first. Take an example of Mr. X, and he's interviewing candidates for a very important position in his organization, which requires negotiations with male suppliers. So it's tough negotiations in his mind, and he expects a male to land the job. So this shows his bias towards the female candidates due to his perception. Now we go for moods. Moods can have a strong influence on the way we perceive someone. We think differently when we are happy than we do when we are depressed. When in a positive mood, we form more positive impressions of others, and in negative mood, we evaluate others unfavorably. Motives. Unsatisfied needs or motives stimulate individuals and may exert a strong influence on their perceptions. In an organizational context, a boss who is insecure perceives a subordinate's efforts to do an outstanding job as a threat to his own position, and he thinks that he wants to get my job. self-concept. Another factor that can affect social perception is the perceiver's self-concept. In contrast, see, if someone is positive, if they have positive thoughts about others, and if someone is negative, they think negatively of others. In trust, the focus of our attention appears to be influenced by our interests. See the example, the supervisor who has just been reprimanded by his boss for coming late is more likely to notice colleagues coming late tomorrow than he did last week. If you are preoccupied with a personal problem, you may find it hard to be attentive in class. Cognitive structures. Cognitive structures include an individual's pattern of thinking also affects perception. Cognitive complexity allows a person to perceive multiple characteristics of another person rather than attending to just a few traits. Expectations. Finally, expectation can distort your perceptions in a way that you will see more what you want to see what you expect in others. So, specific characteristics of the perceiver reveal knowing oneself is easier, and it becomes easy to perceive from others. Now we have target's characteristics. The perceiver will notice the target's physical features like height, weight, estimated age, race, and gender. Perceivers tend to notice physical appearance characteristics that contrast with the norm, that are intense, or that are new or unusual. We have verbal communication. We listen to the topics they speak out, their voice, tone, their accent. It all matters. Non-verbal communication. Let's go for an example here. If our manager comes to our office doorway, we think, oh no, he's going to give me more work to do. We may perceive that his intentions are to congratulate us on our good work. Targets are not looked at in isolation. The relationship of a target to its background influences perception because of our tendency to group close things and similar things together. Let us go for an example. If two employees of a department suddenly resign, we tend to assume their departure were related, when in fact it totally might not be. But that is how the human mind works. Now we have situation, the situation in which the interaction between the perceiver and the target takes place, and the strength of the situational cues which also affect the social perception. Let us understand this through an example. If a 20-year-old is at a swimming pool and the professor is also there, they will not notice the 20-year-old girl wearing a bikini because everybody is wearing a bikini. But if the same 20-year-old girl shows up in the class in bikini, it would definitely be much more noticeable because it goes against the normality, the normal appearance of a student. So this is how the contradiction of situation affects perception. Here we have a few shortcuts: contrast effect, implicit personality theories, and self-fulfilling prophecies. Let us discuss them in detail. First of all, we have an example for the contrast effect. A man walking down the street with a pair of crutches is way more noticeable than a common man. See, a human mind agrees to this because there is contrast. The contrast principle essentially states that external stimuli that stand out against the background or which are not what we are expecting we will receive attention. There is nothing unusual about male students, but if there are say 19 students and 18 of them are females and there's just one male student, he would definitely stand out. Implicit personality theories. Let us discuss an example. We believe that girls dressed in fashionable clothes will like modern music, and girls dressed in traditional clothes will like Indian classical music. So there we have it. The implicit personality theories are barriers because they limit our ability to take in new information when it is available because of perception. Self-fulfilling prophecies. Self-fulfilling prophecies are the situation in which our expectations about people affect our interaction with them in such a way that our expectations are fulfilled. Self-fulfilling prophecy is also known as Pygmalion effect, after a sculptor in Greek mythology who carved a statue of a girl that came to life and he prayed for this wish and it was granted. And here it is. Managerial implications of perception. We have employment interview, performance evaluation, employee loyalty, performance expectations. Let us discuss in detail. First of all, we have employment interview. A major input into who is hired and who is rejected in any organization is the employment interview. Evidence indicates that interviewers often make inaccurate perpetual judgments. Interviewers generally draw early impressions that become very quickly entrenched. If negative information, this is really important, if negative information is exposed early in the interview, it tends to be more heavily weighted than it is with the same information coming out later. So you see, this is the judgment criteria of interviews. Performance evaluation. The evaluator forms a general impression of an employee's work. What the evaluator perceives to be good or bad employee characteristics significantly influence the appraisal outcome. C. Personal judgment. An employee's future is closely tied to his or her appraisal. Promotions, pay raises, and continuation of employment are among the most obvious outcomes. Performance expectations. So individuals dress carefully for interviews because they want to look the part in order to get the job. Self-descriptions or statements about one's characteristics are used to manage impressions well. But we need a tip here that excessive impression management can lead to the perception that the user is manipulative or insincere. So you see, perception is really important, and it is basically the crux of the management skills or the work of a manager. So we really needed to know about this, and now we know in